I remember things happened so fast.
The quiet afternoon stillness of a small desert community is shattered. Bruised and bloody, a dog collar with a chain hanging from her neck, Cynthia Vigil runs down the dirt road. She's been held captive and tortured for 3 days.
I just had to keep thinking over and over. At that point, I couldn't be weak no more.
Now she runs, afraid to turn around and see her captors closing in behind her.
I was just thinking in my head, they can't catch me. They can't catch me. It was so far beyond anything that I just thought I was in hell. I was gonna fight to the end. It was all or nothing at this point. I wasn't giving up.
a.m., Saturday, March 20th, 1999. Cynthia Vigil walks down Central Avenue in Albuquerque. She has lived her whole life in this New Mexico city and knows its streets well. The 21-year-old has had a difficult life, and the streets are her refuge. A family member sexually abused her, and her mother died abruptly before she could expose what happened. Cynthia's feelings of isolation only increased when she tried to tell her remaining family about the abuse.
Everyone just basically told me to get out. They didn't trust me or believe me. When my mother died, I basically had nobody.
Now, with few friends and family, she disappears for days at a time and no one thinks to miss her.
I just didn't have control of my life at that point. I was just on my own out there, living from motel to motel, day to day.
It is a dangerous life.
People who live on the edge tend to be easy targets for predators. The primary reason being nobody's gonna miss them, and the predator knows that.
As she walks down the street this Saturday, Cynthia is unaware that eyes are following her. There's a man sitting in an RV watching her. He motions for her to climb in. She lets the man guide her through a curtain and into the messy camper.
He was a pretty smooth talking guy, believe it or not. He was just scraggly, though. My instinct started going towards I didn't trust him.
He's David Parker Ray, a longtime sexual sadist who has traveled 150 miles north on I-25 to find a girl just like Cynthia, someone he can take who will not be missed.
Once inside the RV, David produced a false badge and identification card and told her that she was under arrest and tried to handcuff her.
I was screaming, but I don't think it made a difference. I tried running for the door and hoping maybe he would let loose of the handcuff.
But her escape route is blocked. There's another person in the camper with them, a woman. She is Ray's accomplice and girlfriend, Cindy Hendy.
He had one end of the handcuff and the other one was around my wrist. And she shocked me with the cattle prod.
Her assailants quickly handcuff her to a cabinet.
I thought they were gonna kill me. And I just kept pleading and begging, what are you gonna do to me? At one point, she said that they were just gonna take me and they were gonna rape me and let me go.
Unable to see out the windows, Cynthia has no idea where her captors are taking her. But Cynthia is a fighter. She's not going to give up.
I was feeling around where I was tied to, and I felt some bolts and screws. And I just started messing with them, and they came loose.
Her plan is to wait until the RV stops and then make her escape. But suddenly, the camper brakes hard to the right and she slides across the floor.
They had pulled over on the side of the road, and they both went back there.
They realize what their clever captive has done.
And that's when they removed all my clothing, and they put duct tape around my face and then around my mouth.
Naked and powerless, Cynthia listens as her captors discuss her.
They were making comments about my body, that I had a good small frame, and that's what they were looking for.
The matter-of-fact tone of their conversation is chilling. Clearly, they've done this before.
They were hunting, and she was the target. These individuals would hunt people, women, the same as anybody else hunts deer or elk.
After what seems like hours, the RV pulls onto a gravel road and stops.
Cindy Handy went to the back, and he went out the door. And she got a pair of shackles out of the toolbox, and she put them on my ankles. She told me that if I screamed, that I'd be sorry.
Cynthia is led from the RV. She looks around. She can't believe her eyes. Her captors are leading her not to a dungeon, but to a trailer in the middle of a crowded subdivision.
It was peaceful. You had neighbors on either side, but not on top of you. And then behind where he lived was this gorgeous, crystal clear blue lake that just took your breath away.
I did not scream because I was just so scared that if I screamed, that they would have killed me right then and there.
There's always a hope that if I do what this person says, maybe they won't hurt me as badly later on.
At first, the trailer appears deceivingly normal, but then Cynthia sees a crucifix hung upside down on a wall and random hooks hanging from the ceiling. Ray pushes her onto a small bed in the middle of the living room.
And they sat me on this bed, and he put a metal collar that went around my neck, and it had a very thick chain on it. And they had a master lock to lock it. And they got the other end, and there was a pole that was bolted to the wall. They hooked it onto that with another master lock.
Ray puts an audio tape into a cassette player. He pushes a button.
I'm into bondage.
Suddenly, the stillness is shattered as his voice fills the room.
So when I get the urge, I go out, find me
I
something.
remember it starting off as saying, "You've been selected."
We both know what you've been brought here for.
I can't remember exactly how it goes, but it more or less had that I had been selected according to my body
Hard to find willing partners.
and my looks,
So when I
and
get the urge,
that I was there to be their sex slave.
your wrists and ankles are chained and you're gagged because you're not going to like the way I do it. You're going to be kept here, naked and chained down.
He describes what he's going to do to them sexually. He describes what will happen to them if they try to resist.
They say that I'm cold and compassionless. Now I treat people like I do objects, as a means to my own pleasure. And I suppose they're right to a certain extent.
He also indicates that people have resisted in the past and that he has either mutilated them or has actually killed those individuals.
I could almost imagine the horrific terror the victim would be going through listening to David's voice saying what he's going to do to you. It's almost unimaginably frightening.
The tape lasts nearly 30 minutes.
As soon as I turn this tape off, you will have an excellent opportunity to try to beg for me to turn you loose. I love to listen to a beg and plead. And this is the end of the tape.
I think I shut a lot of myself down to not feel nothing, because it was so far beyond anything. Yeah, I just thought I was in hell.
at 10, only on Investigation Discovery.
Next Sunday on an all-new On the Case, a successful young attorney is found in a shallow grave.
Those are the kind of cases that send shockwaves.
As a devastated community waits for justice, detectives build a case against her husband.
Holy mackerel. I don't remember ever being more upset in my life.
But a surprising clue could reveal her real killer.
At what point did you really begin to panic?
On On the Case with Paul is on, all new next Sunday at 10 on Investigation Discovery.
21-year-old Cynthia Vigil is chained to a bed inside a double-wide trailer. She has no idea where she is or what's going to happen to her.
When a person is in that state, there's nothing psychologically or physically that is available to them as a shield. And the mind will start racing. What are they going to do with me? How might I get out of this?
Demented words from an audio cassette made by her captor, sexual sadist David Parker Ray, still echo in her ears.
You're going to be kept here, naked and chained down. I'm going to use you for sex slave.
When you listen to these tapes, they are absolutely chilling. There is no misunderstanding what he is going to do to you.
Naked and restrained, there's nothing Cynthia can do but wait.
They kind of went about their business at the house, and he had disappeared to, I guess, another part of the trailer.
But he's made a chilling promise on one of the audio tapes that he's about to make good on.
Let's see, what else am I going to do to you? I'm going to use an electroshock machine.
And when he came back, he had a car battery and like a little board with switches on it, and he connected the wires to my breast.
Ray, like all sexual sadists, takes pleasure from the pain he causes others.
I was being shocked with that car battery. When it first started happening, I remember he looked like a kid with a new toy. He was happy. After that, I don't remember nothing.
Her abductor has designed his trailer carefully. Although Ray lives in a crowded subdivision in southern New Mexico, neighbors can't hear Cynthia's screams. They have no idea what's going on right next door. But police will later find evidence that suggests Ray has been bringing women to this trailer for years, and his career as a sexual sadist has lasted for decades. Ray brags about these possible victims in his audio cassettes.
I've taken 37 women for these purposes. Hell, maybe more by now. But none has ever escaped yet, and they've all served. I'm sure that you won't be an exception.
I can only imagine how terrifying it would be for someone like that, feeling so helpless, so alone, and just so overwhelmed by the idea of, how did this happen to me?
David Parker Ray and Cindy Hendy spent hours torturing Cynthia.
I remember fast shocks, slow shocks, hard shocks, soft ones, just going through my body over and over for hours.
It's a wonder that she found a way to manage and endure that. In many cases, people may just plead for their life or ask to be killed at that point in time.
Finally, the horror ends.
I think he just got tired because they stopped. And he went and put it away. And then they sat on the couch and ate and drank and watched TV.
Racked with pain, Cynthia lies as still as she can, unable to comprehend what's happening to her.
And I remember laying in bed, just looking at all the walls, looking at everything, looking at the upside-down crosses they had everywhere, just thinking what's gonna happen to me.
After a while, her captors turn off the television and go to sleep.
She doesn't know where she is. She doesn't know how far she might be from a human being that might be willing to help her.
And I remember at one point, I had thought of killing myself, so I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of killing me.
During the long, sleepless night, Cynthia turns to the only comfort she can.
I was praying over and over. I was asking my mom to help me, thinking that she might be an angel, trying to have whatever faith I could have.
Sunday morning, March 21st, 1999. Cynthia wakes to her second day of captivity. Her body aches as she lies chained to the bed, waiting to learn what her captors have planned for her.
She may be physically exhausted and sleep deprived, but she is still in this mode of, I need to survive.
Soon, her captors wake and come for her. They unlock her chain and shackles. If she had any hope that she'd find sympathy from Cindy Hendy, it's dismissed now.
She had the gun. And she goes, if you try anything, we will kill you. And they walked me into the bathroom. And he started the shower. And she told me to take a shower.
Now, Cynthia can only wonder what comes next. So far, escape is impossible, and rescue is nothing more than a dream.
A million things are running through my head. At this point, I didn't know if I was gonna die. And it really scared me, thinking I'm not gonna be reported missing. That no one's gonna look for me.
Tomorrow on an all-new Behind Mansion Walls, he was a high-powered official having a secret affair with the governor's secretary.
He was a big shot. He had a lot of savoir-faire.
When she tries to break it off,
Didn't like it when things didn't go his way.
he kills her and blames his mistress. But what will her private diary reveal about her murder?
Tom thought that he was above the law.
Behind Mansion Walls, all new tomorrow at 10 on Investigation Discovery.
With Bengay Pain Relief Plus Massage, you can do this. Get it out, girl. You can't do that. But you can do this. Bengay Pain Relief Plus Massage with penetrating nubs plus the powerful pain relief of Bengay. Love the nubs.
Bearman.
Thursday on an all-new Nightmare Next Door. In the seaside town of Santa Barbara, a young father is gunned down. Investigators suspect his ex-wife.
We thought that DNA was going to match her.
But she has the perfect alibi.
She didn't act surprised. She didn't show any emotion.
Could their custody battle be enough motive for murder?
It wasn't Kelly, but it was possibly someone in her family.
Nightmare Next Door, all new, Thursday at 10, only on Investigation Discovery.
Sunday morning, March 21st, 1999. 24 hours ago, Cynthia Vigil was walking freely down the streets of Albuquerque. Now, hours from home, she is just beginning her second day of captivity at the hands of sexual sadist David Parker Ray and his girlfriend, Cindy Hendy. The day before, Cynthia listened as Ray's recorded voice told her what to expect.
You're going to be tied in a variety of different positions, but for the most part, you'll be kept on a rectangular table, chained down, spread-eagled.
She's been tortured and shocked with a homemade device. Now, as her captors shove her into a new room, she realizes the terror is only beginning.
He walked me into this room that had awful, horrible things everywhere. Just devices that I had never even imagined existed.
In this room comes new, more intense torture.
The second bedroom was an inside-the-house torture chamber. There was a dresser that had all sorts of homemade sexual toys, a variety of items that were used to inflict pain upon individuals.
There are fish hooks, pliers, cattle prods, and Ray and Hendy plan to use them all. Cynthia later tells investigators she called this chamber the dirty room because of the disgusting horrors it contained.
They had these wires that had weights at one end of them, and they ran up to the ceiling and threw a little ring, and they came down and they connected those to my breast. Every time she would shock me with the cattle prod, my body would jerk and the weights would drop lower.
Powerless, Cynthia must endure agonizing pain.
I screamed till finally I gave up.
The mind is still functioning, but it's as if a person says, things are so overwhelming for me right now, I can't handle it. My mind's gonna go somewhere else because my body can't right now.
Ray's fixation with sexual torture and sadism has been a lifelong passion. He spent 40 years perfecting it. Inside the secret world of his trailer, Ray keeps meticulous notes and journals that detail tortures inflicted on countless unnamed victims. He also keeps more tangible mementos.
They showed me pictures of women tied up with orange straps.
The Polaroids are there for Cynthia to see, to know what's coming next. Three years earlier, in 1996, Ray took a local girl, Kelly Garrett, captive.
I still don't remember everything, but I remembered bits and pieces of it. Enough.
For over 2 days, David Parker Ray tortured Kelly.
I kept thinking he was gonna kill me. My mouth was covered, but I would lick the tape so I could talk, and all I kept telling him was I want to go home. That's all I remember saying to him.
But Kelly proved more trouble than she was worth. People were looking for her. Ray could have killed her. Instead, he clouded her mind with a debilitating combination of drugs and released her.
With Kelly, what we believe he did was use a combination of phenobarbital and sodium pentothal as a mind-altering drug to make her more compliant and to erase their memories.
He was so good at what he did that he could bring these women in and keep them for 3 or 4 days and kill them and dump their bodies or brainwash them.
Three years later, Cynthia Vigil lies on a table in Ray's second bedroom as he and Cindy Hendy use the tools from his walls on her. Unlike Kelly Garrett, Cynthia is the perfect victim. There's no one looking for her. She knows that, but she can't understand why the people in the subdivision don't hear her cries for help.
How could they not hear the screams? How could they not see me walk from the RV to the trailer naked? You know? I just remember thinking, is there anybody out there that could help me?
You can't hear what's going on inside from the outside. At best, you would have a muffled sound if you were up close to the door. The sound just didn't travel very far.
Outside, the tiny desert community of Elephant Butte goes about its business, and the cold, dark waters of the nearby lake are still. During summer holiday weekends, as many as 100,000 revelers can flock to the shores of Elephant Butte Lake. But what Cynthia doesn't know is that in March, the area is nearly empty, and there are no witnesses to what happens within the Ray trailer. Back in the living room, Cynthia experiences one more degradation. True to his word, Ray foreshadowed it in his audio tapes.
You're going to be suspended from the ceiling by your wrists and very thoroughly whipped with a cane, quirt, bullwhip, or cat o' nine tails. Whatever strikes my fancy.
Like the previous day, Hendy actively participates in the torment, much to Cynthia's confusion.
At one point I had asked Cindy Hendy, why are you guys doing this to me? Why me? She told me, you know, the more you fight, the more he gets off. And that was the only answer I got from her.
When she realizes that the woman is actually maybe even more of an aggressive perpetrator, she likely goes into a survival mode once again and says, I can't rely on anybody. I need to be on guard and be prepared so that if there's ever any window of opportunity, I'm gonna try to take that.
They were taking turns. They were whipping me across my back. my legs, my chest. It just seemed the more that I would squirm and fight, the more he'd do it. So finally, at one point, my body went numb. I just hung there.
Finally, they cut her down and chain her back to the bed. She can hear them in the living room. Hendy is making dinner for Ray. Eventually, Hendy brings Cynthia a bowl of water chestnuts, the first food she's had in a day and a half. After they finish eating, Ray and his girlfriend sit on the sofa watching television, ignoring the battered woman chained in their living room. Before they turn the lights off, Hendy mentions something to Cynthia. The words mean nothing, but still, they fill her with dread.
I do remember being told that they were going to take me to the toy box the next day. She said the toy box. I figured it had to be something really bad. I thought I was going to be killed in there.
With her captor sleeping just a few feet away, Cynthia lies awake, trying to figure a way out of the situation.
This is a woman who has survived grief with the loss of family members, okay? She has survived abuse, okay? She has survived the streets. She's going to be a fighter. She's going to be a survivor.
Cynthia's courage and toughness, born from years living on the streets, gives her the strength to survive and plot her revenge.
I thought of everything. I was gonna torture him the way he did to me. I was gonna make him pay for everything he did to me.
Thursday, on an all-new Nightmare Next Door. In the seaside town of Santa Barbara, a young father is gunned down. Investigators suspect his ex-wife.
We thought that DNA was going to match her.
But she has the perfect alibi.
She didn't act surprised. She didn't show any emotion.
Could their custody battle be enough motive for murder?
It wasn't Kelly, but it was possibly someone in her family.
Nightmare Next Door, all new, Thursday at 10, only on Investigation Discovery.
Monday, March 22nd, 1999. Cynthia Vigil has spent her second sleepless night chained to a bed while her captors sleep on the floor beside her. Her arms and legs have been shackled for 2 days.
Was that there's absolutely no way in hell that you're going to be turned loose until I'm absolutely, totally through with you. No matter how much you beg, plead.
She has been tortured with electric shock, suspended from the ceiling, and sexually abused. She can only imagine that what comes next will be even worse.
I didn't have a drop of energy in me. I remember just laying there, but I couldn't sleep. I had just given up hope.
But she's surviving.
When you think about somebody like her being tortured for 3 days, sleep deprived for 2 or more, this is a strong woman who likely utilized the resources of her street smarts to get herself through this situation.
When Ray walks into the room on Monday morning dressed for work, he has one more surprise for Cynthia.
I was just laying there staring at the wall. And he comes down into the den, and he took the handcuffs and the shackles off. And he was in this uniform.
Cynthia can barely process what she sees. David Parker Ray, her tormentor for the past 2 days, is dressed in an official-looking khaki uniform.
It scared me worse. Because, it being, an official and everything, and to be doing this to me, I thought there was no hope. Nobody was going to ever help me, and I was never going to get out of that mess.
Another layer of confusion, another layer of frustration and despair for Cynthia. If she had hopes that somebody might eventually save her or find her, would she be able to tell her story and be believable?
One reason Ray has gone unnoticed is that he is a respected member of the community. He has worked for several years as a mechanic at nearby Elephant Butte State Park, and he wears the same uniform as park rangers. As he prepares to leave for work, he makes the same promise to Cynthia that Cindy Hendy had made the night before.
He had said, well, when I get back, you're going to be going to the toy box. I had no idea what that meant.
What Cynthia doesn't know is that Ray's toy box is the ultimate expression of his depravity. It is a small white cargo trailer on blocks beside the double-wide residence.
We kind of feel had she gone in the box, then she more likely would have been murdered and would have never been the wiser.
Authorities think that many women who went in the toy box simply disappeared afterward.
It just reeked of death to me. It's quiet in this little bitty room, and the message it sent to you was death.
The centerpiece of the trailer is an enormous black gynecology chair covered with restraints. Ray's toy box is soundproofed, and the walls are covered with more drawings, photos, and instructions Ray has written for himself on how to discipline and torment captives. On a shelf, there is a collection of medical journals and a candle holder shaped like a devil's head.
I'll bet he spent probably over $100,000 on it. It was his grand obsession. You can't, in your most perverse imagination, you cannot recreate anything even close to the toy box.
Cameras are pointed towards the chair, and monitors are positioned so that the victim can witness her own torture. Cynthia has already endured 2 days of terror, and now tonight, something even worse has been promised her.
I had thought that they were going to kill me that night. I remember thinking in my head, I honestly thought that the toy box was the coffin.
Cynthia knows she has to escape before Ray comes home if she wants to live.
I had no choice. At that point, I couldn't be weak no more.
She may have perceived herself as being weak, but she hasn't been weak. She has been extremely persistent and enduring for the last 3 days. Her resilience comes through in the fact that she is still trying to find avenues for her survival.
The day passes with agonizing slowness, and Cynthia bides her time. She's still naked and chained by her neck to the wall, though her hands and feet are free. As the afternoon crawls along, Hendy ignores her captive.
She was watching TV, and the phone rang. And she looked at me, and she goes, "You better not scream." And she walked to the back of the trailer. I don't know where she went. She took the phone with her.
It's just before 3 p.m., and it takes Cynthia's sleep-deprived brain several vital moments to realize that Hendy has made a mistake.
I noticed the keys that they carried around every time they moved me. It was on the coffee table.
She reacts impulsively, knowing that Hendy may return at any moment.
It was instinct. I seen her get up and leave, and I just seen them keys sitting there, and I thought, here's my chance.
Carefully, she slides her feet between the iron railing that separates her from the table where the keys are.
I had to go over the rail, and I didn't have enough slack, so I was choking myself. I remember stretching. I've never stretched that far in my life.
She works as quickly and quietly as she can.
I stretched my legs under that wrought iron fence, and I pulled the table towards me.
She snatches the keys and quickly pushes the table back, hoping that Hendy won't notice it has been moved.
And I curled up into a ball against the wall. And I just remember there was a million keys on that key ring, and I was just trying different keys.
Suddenly, Hendy storms into the living room.
She screamed at me to give her back the keys. And I didn't say nothing at that point. I just stayed quiet, and I was just trying the keys, different keys.
That's when another surge of adrenaline kicks in. Perhaps a surge of confidence and hope that no matter what happens, I'm going to fight my way through. And she does.
Cynthia frantically tries to free herself.
I just remember things happened so fast.
It all swings on her getting away that afternoon.
I was going to fight to the end. It was all or nothing at this point. I wasn't giving up. She would have had to have killed me. to stop me.
Thursday, on an all-new Nightmare Next Door. In the seaside town of Santa Barbara, a young father is gunned down. Investigators suspect his ex-wife.
We thought that DNA was going to match her.
But she has the perfect alibi.
She didn't act surprised. She didn't show any emotion.
Could their custody battle be enough motive for murder?
It wasn't Kelly, but it was possibly someone in her family.
Nightmare Next Door, all new, Thursday at 10, only on Investigation Discovery.
Honey, you're home. Who the bleep did I marry? All new season premieres Wednesday, July 13th at 10. Only on Investigation Discovery.
March 22nd, 1999, approximately 3 p.m. Naked and bloodied, Cynthia Vigil desperately tries to unlock the chain that secures her to the wall of the dimly lit trailer. After 2 days of captivity, she finally has a chance to escape. But Cindy Hendy has caught her in the act.
She ran into the den and she grabbed a lamp. She started beating me with this lamp.
Chained to the wall, Cythia can do little to protect herself. With Cindy Hendy beating her, she curls up tightly and desperately tries various keys in the lock that secures her.
She was screaming at me. I remember her hitting me with the lamp and feeling the glass shatter all over me. And I remember I seen black, and then I just seen the lock again. And every time she hit me and I'd see black, when I'd come out of it, I'd see that lock. I stayed so focused on that lock.
She is separating her thoughts from the physical assaults that are happening to her. Tunnel vision sinks in. She is focused on those keys because that's all she knows at that point is survival.
It takes every ounce of strength Cynthia can manage to maintain her focus as Hendy beats her.
She was hitting me, she was grabbing me, she was pulling my hair back. She was trying to get me out of that little ball position I got myself into. I just kept praying. Please, just let this lock open. Let this lock open. Just pray. And the lock pops open.
Cynthia stands, and for the first time in 2 days, she is able to fight back.
She's very big, bigger than me, but I took her on.
When a person is in survival mode, no matter what is happening around them, they will find a way to overcome the barriers around them. And Cynthia, at this point, is fighting for her life, so she has nothing to lose.
All of a sudden, this little wooden box falls off a shelf onto the floor and opens up. An ice pick pops out. And all of a sudden, Vigil had a weapon.
I have no clue where this ice pick came from. And I guess she had dropped the phone on the bed when she had seen that I was trying to get away. And as I was standing up, I dialed 911.
7 miles away, Sierra County 911 dispatch receives a confusing call.
Hello? Hello?
Abruptly, the call disconnects. Cynthia loses the phone, but she manages to grab the ice pick.
And I went at her with the ice pick, and I got her, I think, right here. And I remember she grabbed her head, and she, like, bent over. I took off, I ran.
Cynthia bursts through the front door, running as fast as she can.
She ran out of that house wearing literally nothing except an iron collar around her neck and a 6-7 foot chain.
She doesn't think about, am I dressed? That's not an issue. She's just thinking about surviving. Nothing else matters at that point in time.
I remember running, and my feet were bleeding. My head was bleeding. My back was bleeding. My wrists were bleeding. I just remember so much blood as I was running. I tore a big old chunk of skin off my heel and my foot.
She runs blindly, terrified she is being pursued.
I was just thinking in my head, they can't catch me. They can't catch me.
Cynthia runs toward a passing car and pounds desperately on the window. The driver is too frightened to stop, but calls 911.
Okay, we just talked to a lady here on Hot Springs Landing Road. She said that there was a female that took off running. She was not wearing any clothes.
Sierra County Sheriff's deputies and Elephant Butte State Park Rangers head to the confusing scene. Less than a mile from the Ray residence, Cynthia rushes into an open trailer, startling the older couple that lives there.
911. Yes, I'm calling for a young lady that ran into the house. She says she's just been raped. She's at my house. Okay. Do we know her name? What is your name? Cynthia Vigil. Cynthia? She's got a chain on her and everything. Send someone right away.
Police arrive minutes later, but knowing that Ray wears a uniform, Cynthia refuses to come out.
I'm panicking. I'm panicking that the cops are going to be him, that the cops are on his side. So I remember the first set of cops that came, I didn't trust, I wouldn't let them inside.
When she came out, she would look at the officer and she'd look up at him and just avoid him. And she saw me and just like zeroed in, just went straight for me.
Honestly, he had something about him that I trusted him and only him.
Cynthia is transported to nearby Sierra Vista Hospital. Within the hour, Ray and Hendy are arrested. They are driving in their RV nearby. They were apparently searching for Cynthia. At the hospital, a sore and exhausted Cynthia Vigil has only one thought on her mind: the chain around her neck.
I was begging people to take it off, and finally they called a maintenance man from the hospital.
I removed the padlock, which just almost fell away, and I opened up the collar, and Miss Vigil, just the whole weight of the world, it seemed like, came off of her, but she almost helped me. She pushed that collar away.
I had been with this collar around my neck for 3 days. When that lock came off my neck, that's when I knew it was over, and I was away.
More than 100 state and federal agents descended on his Elephant Butte home.
In the weeks that follow, investigators build a damning case against David Parker Ray, thanks to Cynthia Vigil.
Once we got inside the residence, every device that she described, every instrument that she indicated either Cindy or David used on her were found there. And her DNA was found on several of those items. This just confirmed the horror story that Cynthia had told us as to what went on for 2.5 days inside that residence.
They find Ray's toy box and evidence that leads them to other victims. On April 6th, 1999, Cindy Hendy takes a plea deal and in the process implicates David Parker Ray in several unsolved murders.
The FBI has estimated that David was responsible for the deaths of between 45 and 60 women, and it wasn't until Cindy was able to escape that he was stopped.
I wonder how many victims are scattered about on those little hills and crevices, that we'll never find. That's what I see now when I see Elephant Butte Lake.
Cindy Hendy pleads guilty to 5 counts of kidnapping, criminal penetration, and conspiracy. She is sentenced to up to 54 years in prison. Cynthia testifies at Ray's trial. For the first time, she faces her tormentor, a free woman.
I wasn't going to fear him no more. I was in control of this now. He was no longer in control of me. He had me them 3 days, but no more.
In September 2001, David Parker Ray accepts a plea deal of his own after being found guilty on the charges of abduction and rape. He is sentenced to 224 years in prison. Ray dies less than a year later after suffering a major heart attack.
I was kind of mad about that, but at the same time I was happy because he's not wasting our taxpayers' money to keep him alive and jailed like the dog he is.
Today, those who know the story best still marvel at Cynthia's bravery.
Cynthia's my hero in this. Not only is she my hero, she's a hero to the New Mexico State Police, and she's a hero to countless other women that would have fallen victim to David.
There's no doubt in my mind that her actions saved untold number of women from being abducted, being sexually tortured, and being murdered.
It makes me feel good that I was able to get away and stop a monster like him. He can't do this to nobody else. He can't make nobody else's life miserable.
Cynthia still carries scars from her ordeal. She is afraid of strangers and enclosed spaces. But with her husband, she has begun to put this chapter of her life behind her.
I just wish I could impact somebody's life, keep a young girl from going to the streets and getting hurt, and let them know that, it's not a joke. It's not a joke out there, There's bad things, there's bad people, there's bad things that happen to people. I was an adult, and that still happened to me.
I tried to scoop myself so I could sit on my butt and scoot down the stairs. I was trying that, and my feet just got hung up.
After 15 hours of non-stop torture, the bones in Thad Phillips' legs are broken.